All right, so we are talking about texture fills and how to make those work. Not texture fills, color separations and how to make those work. So I'm in the middle of isolating my magenta channel and changing it into what's called a halftone screen, where it's just going to be black dots instead of this even gradation of grayscale. But I needed to figure out what angle to make the halftone screen for magenta. So we need to learn that. And we know that black is the only one that's always on 45 degrees. So magenta is just off of that. It's 30 degrees off of 45. So that can either be 15 degrees if you look at it this way, or 75 degrees if you look at it this way. So there we see it, the magenta at 75 degrees. So let me put that in for my halftone for magenta. I want it at 75 degrees. What shape do I want it to be? Well, let's make them just nice and round, very vintage. And now we zoom in. And this is now a bitmap layer, which is only black and white. And using only little round 20 dots per inch, it gives me a color separation. And this would be my film work for the magenta layer. Okay? But then, in order to actually use it, I would need to fill all those blacks. So I'd have to select them all. And I'd have to replace them with magenta ink, right? And then I'd have to do that with all the other channels as well. So that's extreme. So what can we do instead? Well, I made an action that does all of that hard work for you. But I don't want to do a color separation on everything in my poster, especially not my black lines, which are nice and clean. So instead, what I'll do is I'll just keep it in RGB mode, but I'm going to make a test layer. One where I turn off the things that I don't want to be color separated, like my text and my vector line work. Well, that's a color hold over the eyes. Forgot about that. Not sure I want that either. Let's do it this way. All right, so this is all the stuff that I want. Actually, let's turn off the background too. So this is all the stuff that I want raster or color separated. Even the texture overlay layer, because that will make it a little bit more interesting. So now what do? Well, I'm going to say, go to my very top layer that's turned on, and I'm going to say merge visible, layer merge visible. I'm not holding down Option, so that they'll all just move together into one layer. The reason I'm not flattening is because I don't want white to be part of it. All right, and now I'm going to erase every other layer just to speed it up and delete. And I'm going to save this as a PNG. And this is a test for color seps, color separations. All right, now what's nice is this has all of my coloring on it, my banner coloring. You can see how my little hamster looks very much like a watercolor there without the black lines because of the texture overlay. Notice how the texture overlay is not affecting my outlines here. But I want you to see what a color separation does to outlines. And this is the brown outline though, this isn't my solid black outline. Okay, now I go to Actions. And these are actions that I've put on all of your computers within Photoshop. And we've used some of these before. But this is not under Carl's customized effects. It's under Carl Color Seps. And I want you to do the full run action, CMYK full run, on this test flattened, not flattened, but compressed image, which only has the things that you want to color sep. Okay, and so what it does is it's going to go through and create a different Photoshop file for each ink. So it's going to create a yellow, a magenta, a cyan, and a black dot layer. And then it's going to create one file that combines them all together. And that's what we see here on a white background. So let's go through it. What am I looking at? Well, I have a white background. On top of that, I first have a cyan ink bitmap halftone layer. You see how that even affects the background? It's pretty cool. Then I have the magenta, and that's on top of the cyan, and it's offset slightly. So you see how the magenta dots are at 75 degree angle. The cyan are 15 degrees off of that at a 15 degree angle. Or you can say 90 degrees. Oh, no, yellow's at 90. Sorry, so cyan is at something else. Okay, and then, almost there. And then I have the yellow layer, which is at 90 degrees, or you could say 0 degrees on top of that. And those three layers together give me an image with color. And then my black layer gives me the outlines. Right? But they're broken up, which is why I don't want to rely on that. Now I can take each of those layers, I can move them in different orders. So I can put the cyan on top of everything, or I can put the cyan between the yellow and the magenta. I can play with their opacities. Right now cyan is at 100%, magenta is at 66%, and yellow is only at 45%, which is why I have it on top. Right. But I think because I have green, I'm going to change this up a little bit. I'll take the magenta down a little bit. Yeah, okay, I like this. Okay, now I'm going to select all of these layers, even the black line layer, which you can see is a little bit offset. I can use the move tool and line it up a little bit better if I want, but I built it into the action to be a little bit wrong so that you knew you could correct it, and that makes it look a little bit more vintage. And I'm going to take all of these layers and I am going to move them on top of my poster, my finished poster. Okay, so swoop those out, take these 4 ink colored layers, and we're going to put them on top of my poster. Now, because my color separation action is made for commercial standards, let's see, where are they all? Oops, let's make sure it's on the top. Back to here, drag those layers. I want to put them on top of everything. There they are. I don't want to auto-select my layer. I just want to be able to move these. Now, because they're made for industry standards, which is 300 dots per inch, and my lab standard is 350, I need to grow them a little bit. But they'll fit exactly on top. And this is a way of kind of breaking up the perfect lookingness of your digital coloring and digital painting. Okay, now I see all of them, and now they're on top of my finished digital coloring that was all smooth. So now let's move them all down, first beneath the color holds, and then behind some of the vector line work. And you can see, as they move down, they become kind of more and more subtle. But I kind of love what they do. So now, what was just really basic very smooth coloring now has all of these colored dots on top of it. If I turn them off, you'll see what I had before, but then as I turn them on, they add a little bit of complexity, right? Like that cyan layer, I really like how that looks on the banners, and I like how it breaks up the antlers. Let's do the magenta, or I'm sorry, the yellow. The yellow really makes that star kind of shine in a nice way. And then the red. The red might be a little too strong, those magentas. So maybe I take its opacity down a little bit more. And the yellows, maybe I take their opacity down a little bit. Or I can even play with their hue saturation and make that ink a little bit greener or a little bit redder. It's going to shift it a little bit towards the lemony side and maybe lighten it up a bit, since it's already on green. So we're talking about really subtle effects here, but they actually really will help printing, especially large format printing. Then I really need those cyans pretty strong. All right. And I don't think I need the black. I have that turned off. But it might add a little bit of interest. It's behind my my duotone or my vector line work anyway. But you see it's like a little broken drop shadow behind. I kind of like it. Maybe I'll take its opacity down a little bit more. Just a little more subtle. All right, so now to finish off my poster, there's not much more I need. Need to make all the kind of final decisions. I need to make sure Photoshop doesn't crash on me. So I'm going to save it. I can erase these different, individual film work layers because I'm using the combined. So these are kind of fun to play with for minimalism. They're like stamps. And all I really need to add now is a border. But I'm going to play with my line work. Let's see. Yeah, I do think I want all that turned on. Yeah, I think this is good. All right, so now how do I add a border? Well, that couldn't be easier. Here's my poster. I simply go to canvas size. Well, just to make sure I don't have anything floating, I'm first going to crop it right to its edges. And that will get rid of all this texture on the outside and stuff. And now I'll go to image, canvas size. With an extension of white, I'm just going to make it 1 inch more on each side. So 14, that'll give me a 1/2 inch white border all the way around by 20. And this would be my printed poster. Okay, so what are we turning in for this project? Well, we're doing a JPEG of your final poster for sure, but we also want to turn in just our black text solution and then our color text solution as well as JPEGs. And those will be turned in as assignment 8 into PhotoBucket. And then you're all done. So to do that, you can pull them all from your poster just by turning other